Are they okay? Yeah, we are great sportsmen. We can, do well what we do, but mentally and physically, is that person okay? And I think I should definitely have some support for her, for sure, because I'm in that situation. I'm sure it's not an easy thing.
Welcome to this edition of Viral Talk About. We talk about tennis superstar Naomi Osaka. Yes, Naomi Osaka is the tennis star, great, who's been winning a lot of championships in Wimbledon and the French Open. She recently admitted this past week that she wanted to withdraw from the French Open and put her mental health first. But first thing first, join in the conversation using the hashtag ViralHealConnect. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe is caring. Tell a friend, call a friend, hit the subscribe button so you won't miss a thing here on Viral. As we talk about tennis star Naomi Osaka. I butchered it wrong. My bad. Osaka. Tennis star Naomi Osaka. Yes, tennis star Naomi Osaka had made headlines this past week when she said that she wanted to put her mental health first and she wanted to withdraw from the U.S. French Open. It's the French Open, the most prominent tennis tournament in tennis, probably leading you towards Wimbledon. She wanted to withdraw for mental health. Let's get the latest with this.
It was a standoff sparked by mental health issues. Naomi Osaka copping an almost $20,000 fine for boycotting post-match press conferences. Today, she gave her final serve.
Naomi Osaka has withdrawn from the French Open.
The world number 2 releasing this statement.
I think now the best thing for the tournament, the other players and my well-being is that I withdraw so that everyone can go back to focusing on the tennis going on in Paris. I never wanted to be a distraction and I accept that my timing was not ideal and my message could have been clearer.
Serena Williams came out in Osaka's defense.
I feel for Naomi. I feel like I wish I could give her a hug because I know what it's like to have been in those positions. I'm done.
But despite that support, Osaka says it was this moment in 2018 when she beat Williams to claim the US Open that triggered her mental health decline.
It is Naomi's moment, but much of the story, as it always is, centers around Serena Williams.
This is our first Grand Slam. Let's make this the best moment
I've suffered long bouts of depression since the US Open in 2018, and I have had a really hard time coping with that.
The French Tennis Federation says it's sorry and sad Osaka has pulled out of the tournament.
Naomi withdrawing from Roland Garros is unfortunate. We wish her the best and the quickest possible recovery.
A change of tune from a few days ago when he called Osaka's refusal to speak to the press unacceptable and a phenomenal error. And much of the world's sports media agrees.
This is an amateur. She's a professional. And what she was asked to do by the French Open is what she's asked to do everywhere in the world of professional tennis. You have the
Favorite legend Wayne Schwartz is a passionate.
It is great. Naomi Osaka withdraws from the French Open and tries to put her mental health first. Well, kudos to her, and it's commendable. She wanted to put her mental health first. Mental health is a critical disease, a chronic disease that a lot of people trace throughout the United States and around the world. A lot of people cope with their mechanisms on how to get with their day and coping with stuff to get not from committing suicide or doing something that's bad and senseless. Well, a lot of people want to know what is mental health and how does it affect you, me, and I. Let's see with this.
This kind of started yesterday. Like yesterday, I just woke up and I was really depressed, but I don't know why.
The recent revelations are nothing new.
I'm just an okay player that was able to play okay. I'm so sad right now.
Naomi Osaka has been open about her struggles.
I feel for Naomi. I feel like I wish I could give her a hug because I know what it's like.
Anyone that knows me knows I'm introverted, and anyone that has seen me at the tournaments will notice that I'm often wearing headphones, as that helps dull my social anxiety. I get really nervous and find it stressful to always try to engage and give the best answers I can.
In an Instagram post, she laid it out for everyone.
The 23-year-old revealing she's, quote, suffered long bouts of depression since the US Open in 2018, and I have a really hard time coping with that.
And yet, even with her being so honest, media, predominantly the old guard of white males like Piers Morgan, were none too pleased and responded viciously. It all started when Osaka, the second-ranked player in the world, announced she would not partake in press conferences. She cited her mental health and told the world she has suffered because of it in the past.
The press at these tournaments, and this is not the first time that this has been said, certainly by women athletes in particular, that there is a tremendous amount of pressure that's put on these players by the media themselves, particularly in France.
In effect, she was fined $15,000 for skipping her mandatory press conference. All 4 Grand Slams, including the clay courts of Roland Garros, touted the potential for a suspension and sanctions levied against her just because she would not take questions.
I'm much more interested in the tennis than how she feels afterwards. I mean, it's really stunning. It's almost like they want it. This is what it felt like to me reading this letter from the 4 tournaments, that they're putting a line in the sand and saying, not only will we not accept this from Naomi Osaka, we're not going to accept this from anybody.
So Osaka responded. She withdrew from the French Open, citing reasons we played above in this clip. As the Post wrote, it was a dramatic exit. I think now the best thing for the tournament, the other players, and my well-being is that I withdraw so that everyone can get back to focusing on the tennis going on in Paris, she said. This is Gilles Morin.
Great breakthrough for how mental health comes about, what transpires in mental health, how the triggers are. A lot of people these days try to mask themselves of not trying to show their real emotions, their real feelings, their real sorrow. So we don't know what people go through each and every day, but we hope and pray that everything be okay and they can make it through this journey and this process. All right. Speaking of Naomi Osaka, let's hear what you people had to say about her withdrawing from the French Open and putting her mental health first with this.
tennis player Naomi Osaka over the past few days for refusing to do interviews and participate in news conferences during the French Open, and she's been forced to withdraw from the tournament. This is typical of the sort of misogyny and racism that exists within professional sport. I mean, professional tennis relies entirely on media coverage to generate money, from which players participating at the highest level receive absolutely huge incomes. And yes, players honouring their media commitments is an absolutely vital part of the sport's commercial success. Essentially, professional sport is a form of entertainment, and many people would argue that if you don't like being in the spotlight, you should probably just fuck off and do something else. But I think that's hugely unfair. Obviously, Naomi Osaka has chosen a career in the public eye of her own free will and makes a shit ton of money, but we shouldn't criticise her for having a massive whinge about it, refusing to turn up for work, and then stropping off like a child. If Naomi Osaka was a white man, she'd be celebrated for her lack of self-awareness and championed as a real character of the sport. But because she's a Japanese woman, she's treated like a spoilt brat. It's racism, it's sexism, and it's happening every day in all walks of life, guys. It's endemic in our culture, and I just want to know, when is it going to stop? Why can't we all just be kind? Why can't we just be kind to multi-millionaire professional athletes who just want to share with us how difficult their lives are after we've all just had the worst year and a half of our lives struggling through a pandemic that still isn't over? I empathise with Naomi Osaka and her struggles 100%. And frankly, it's time for us all to support individuals like Naomi, cursed as they are, with privileged lives and unimaginable wealth.
And the Australian Open, all majors. So collectively in sports, they decided that they were going to show this woman of color where her place was. And they really brought a bazooka to a rock fight. Okay, listen, she said she would take the fine, and that for her own mental health, that she would rather not participate in these post-match press conferences. She was trying to protect her peace because Naomi has not done well at this tournament. And what she didn't probably want to do is answer thousands of questions about why she doesn't do well at this tournament. And as she said recently, that she is shy, awkward. These press conferences fill her with anxiety, and it's easy to understand. We forget she is 23 years old. She is trying to assume a mantle from Serena Williams, who was her icon. When she talked about the source of her depression and anxiety being from 2018 in beating Serena in the at that Open, people forget she was booed when she took the stage because so many people wanted Serena Williams to win. This is a very awkward and uncomfortable position for Naomi to be in when it should be the height of her career. So I think if we just had a little more understanding of the full context, then we could understand how she arrived at this point. But for the tennis bodies to collectively gang up against her, it was just really unbelievable that a star of her stature would be treated this way. Because let me ask the French Open officials this. Would you rather have Naomi Osaka in the tournament right now or out of it? I think you take in it, her being in it, and I think you figure out a way that she can participate in an event where you need Naomi Osaka to be participating in.
Yeah. Naomi Osaka, you know the news. You've heard the news. The number 2 ranked tennis player in the world in women's tennis. She decided to depart from the French Open because she's acknowledged that she's battling some depression and anxiety. In light of what she has said, can you talk to me about what your reaction is when you hear the news that a professional athlete has decided to, step away because of depression and anxiety? Can you speak to that, please?
Well, honestly, as an athlete, we go through so much, and it's not just, us competing out there. There's so much that's at stake. There's so much and so many people who are doing it for us. There's our families, there's our friends, our coaches, whoever you've been on this journey with, is your fans and your supporters. So I can definitely relate to that because we go through so much and so long. I've been doing gymnastics since I was 6 years old, and just to hit your body and literally extend your body to the maximum every single day for 4 years. I know for me that it's a lot, and it's not only a lot physically, but it's a lot mentally too.
Are you of the mindset that tournaments, leagues, governing bodies, etc., that an athlete should be compelled by them to talk to the media? Or are you an advocate of just saying, you know what, I don't think it's something that...
Loud for those in the back. She should be praised for looking out for mental health. Everyone has an opinion about Naomi Osaka, the amazing
famed tennis player that has just withdrawn from the French Open. Some people say, I really support her. She's pulled out for mental health reasons. That's important, but I wish she would have done it a different way. Some people say, she shouldn't have withdrawn at all. Doesn't she know she have anxiety and depression? She should have dealt with this beforehand, etc. Some people might be indifferent. Look, there's a lot of opinions going on. But as a physician, I'm going to discuss 3 things that we should all take from what Naomi Osaka has just done and been through. 3 things that you probably have not thought about. Just to recap, by the way, guys, I'm Dr. Jen Caudle. I'm a practicing family physician and on-air health expert. Be done. What I can speak to as a doctor is how anxiety, depression, social anxiety, etc. works, which is that it's not always predictable. Doesn't always come on demand. Doesn't always come as predicted. Doesn't always come when we expect it. Doesn't always stay away when we need it to. So, look, that's my little 2 cents. I can't speak to how she should have done this, what she did, how she should, whatever. What I can say, though, is anxiety can be a big fill in the blank. And it can catch you off guard, and it can change your world in a moment. And it's not necessarily in your control. So just keep that in mind. Let's talk about the second thing that we can really learn from Naomi Osaka, right? And this is something that no one really that I've seen is really talking about this. And I need us all to internalize this, okay? And that is, it takes guts to stand up for what's right or what's important to you. And you know what? She was kind of damned if she did, damned if she didn't, right? Okay? Because if she went ahead with the press release, it sounds like, based on what she's written, she would have been in tremendous agony, very anxious, very depressed, or what have you, right? So terrible. But standing up for herself is not necessarily any easier. I mean, one might say, she's taking the easier way out. You call this the easy way out? Where the whole world is literally judging you? Not only that, but they know your medical history. I mean, first of all, most of us have medical histories that other people are not privy to know or don't know, or that we don't feel like we have to explain. But not her. She felt like she needed to explain what's going on in her life and with her health to justify the decision she made. So in no way is this decision that she made an easy one. In fact, I would argue that in some situations it's actually tougher than perhaps even going through with the interviews for some people. For some people, going through with those interviews would have been far easier and far greater an option for them than dealing with the backlash, the scrutiny, the criticism, the name calling. People are calling her a spoiled brat, that this or that. Some people are saying, we applaud you, we stand with you. Whatever it is people believe, she is dealing with it. So the second thing I want to remind us of, and actually sort of call out with what Naomi has done, and she has long advocated for human rights, for victims of police brutality and unfair injustice. Right? We have seen her advocate for this. It's not easy standing up for what you think. It's not easy ever, whether you're calling out a coworker for a racist thing that they're saying or doing, or you're making a statement about something that you see that's xenophobic or ageist or that's sexist. Anytime we speak out, anytime that we stand up for stuff, it is freaking hard. And I know, she deserves a lot of credit for that. And there are a lot of lessons in that we can all learn. Maybe we all need to be standing up more for things that we know are important to us or are right in the world. The third and final thing that I want to mention that I'm not seeing talked about, that as a doctor
off the court, because Naomi Osaka said she's quitting the tournament for being required to do press conferences. She said she suffers with severe anxiety and depression, which has become too much of a distraction at this point for her to actually compete. She's doing, I think, what lots of people feel like they should be able to do when they get to a place they can't do what they're supposed to do. So, Sonny, what do you think about her saying, listen, I can't do this, and I need to back away from this?
Well, I think she's certainly doing the right thing for herself, but I think she's also making a stand for other athletes and for the sport. I think it's pretty clear that these aren't isolated incidents, and that really the health and wellness of these athletes, whether mental or physical is something that these organizations like the French Open, like the NBA, like the NFL, this is something that they care very little about. There just seems to be a very similar trend, right? This is the very same French Open that said that Serena Williams couldn't wear her catsuit that helped with blood clots in her legs. They said that she could not wear that because somehow it was against the rules and it was unseemly, even though that was for her health and wellness. And this is about not speaking to the press because of Naomi Osaka's health and wellness. And I would say to the French Open, is it now better that she, as one of the premier athletes of the Open, is now not competing because of this alleged rule? The other thing is, I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't tell these athletes like LeBron James, like Colin Kaepernick, like Simone Biles, these premier athletes, shut up and dribble, don't speak. Yet you can speak when we want you to speak. You know, you don't have ownership, you don't have agency over your own bodies. And it just seems to me that so many of these organizations just want to control and own these athletes, and they're silencing the voices of Black athletes, and it's shameful.
Right.
Important thing to make, are they okay? Yeah, we are great sportsmen. We can, do well what we do, but mentally, physically, is that person okay? And I think I definitely have some support for her, for sure, because I'm in that situation. I'm sure it's not an easy thing.
Most dynamic tennis players, maybe in women's tennis history. She's a phenomenal player. She's still at the beginning of her career. She's won 4 singles titles, Grand Slam titles I'm talking about. And she made an announcement last week that she would not be doing any news conferences at the French Open because she didn't think that tournaments took good care of people's mental health. She didn't really talk specifically about her own mental health. It was just kind of like, it's tough to do these news conferences. Well, today, she came out and said that she was pulling out of the French Open. She was pulling out of the French Open and informed people, and this is a quote, that the truth is, I have suffered long bouts of depression since the US Open in 2018, and I have had a really hard time coping with that. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm introverted, and anyone that has seen me at tournaments will notice that I'm often wearing headphones so as to dull my social anxiety. Though the tennis press has always been kind to me, to all the cool journalists and everything, blah, blah, blah. She's saying, I apologize for not really being clear. And I remember saying, it was only last week, saying that, her statement really didn't make a lot of sense. It wasn't the mental health she was talking about. She was just saying that people shouldn't kind of ask difficult questions. And now she comes out and shares something that I think is so hugely important. It's also something that I have believed for a long time, that it's not just Naomi Osaka saying, I battle depression. It's Naomi Osaka saying, I battle depression. It gives me It means that it's really difficult for me to socialize, really difficult for me to answer questions. And basically, I put headphones on because I don't want to have to converse with people. And all of us who battle depression understand that. The real value in what she's doing isn't just to say I battle depression, but what it feels like. SickNoWeek.com, 24 hours a day, 365, 350 days a year. We're here because, hey, Naomi Osaka's here.
A lot of people saying good inspirational stuff to Naomi Osaka, the tennis star, about getting her mental health first and putting it first no matter what. So, like I said, mental health is a critical disease. It's an important disease to the people in the world to get back on track. And we hope Naomi Osaka will get back on track. So, and then Serena Williams made a good point too on that little, what the people say. So, for that, I've been your host, Kendrick Dick, saying so long. So we talk about Naomi Osaka, who withdraws from the French Open and puts her mental health first. Thank you for watching. See you later.